Good morning, everybody. And I want to say, you guys, thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. I know it is Saturday. You guys are just waking up, enjoying the sunshine on your face. So I want to say, guys, we are in for a fun time, a good treat. We got an author, we got an amazing person. She's in the field. You guys already know the conversation is going to be fun. It's going to be interactive. So get your questions and comments. Please put them in the comment section. Do me a favor, if this is your first time tuning in, head on over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, and oh my God, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. Rachel, I want to say thank you for tuning in this morning. She called me Tony Beans. Oh my God, I love her. I love her to death. So without further adu, before I bring her up here, I would like to say that this is for educational purposes only, and there is a parental advisory. So you may not want to let your kids hear this morning, okay? You guys know how we do, but if you do, it's all fun and games. It's also educational and resourceful. So you guys, without further ado, help me welcome my next guest up here, Laura Moulton. Thank you for being on the show. How you doing this morning?
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh my God, I'm happy to have you here. And so before we get started, tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Yeah, my name's Laura Moulton. I am a trained trauma therapist. I have 7 sets of letters after my name, and I am now in the coaching realm. I've switched into coaching, and I recently published a book called Boundaries: Grieving the Living. And I'm in the middle of creating a course curriculum around this topic.
Okay. Now, before we get too far into it, how did you get into this work? Because you got lots of letters around your name, and I'm just like, you know what? How did she get into this work? Because we all have a story, right?
Oh yeah.
Share your story with us.
Well, I guess I didn't have the easiest upbringing, and so I just grew up very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have a distinct memory. I was 14 and I was like, I don't want anybody to have to feel like this alone in life and have to kind of learn how to handle such big emotions so young by themselves. And it made the most sense for me to go into a field that allowed me to train in doing that. So I kind of decided at 14 that was the career I wanted to do. And I went all the way through school and did it. So I think, that's definitely where it started. I just always knew that it takes like one healthy person to change the trajectory of somebody's future. And I thought if I could learn how to do that really well, I'd really love to do that.
Now I have a question, because, like the grief field, grief and trauma is not something that we all wake up and say, this is what I'm going to do, right? Like we go through some stuff, right? Did your experience help relate to the schooling that you was taking and everything? Because I know when I got my grief certification, I actually did it because I thought I was crazy, right? I was like, I'm gonna go get my grief certification and become a grief coach, but I'm not going to study for it, right? Because I was like, if I'm going to fail, at least I'm not going to put in any effort, right? And I realized right then and there that my experience, my life experience, gave me everything that I needed in order to be able to do those things, right? Recovery and suicide prevention and what else? Mental health and all of that good stuff. And I was just like, because honestly, I was looking for every excuse not to do it. I really was, because I was like, I'm going crazy, right? So I want to pose that question. Did your life experience actually, make it easier to be able to relate to getting your certifications and your degree?
Oh my gosh, yes. So like I think that like when you're surrounded by unhealthy, you are always the one that seems crazy, right? You're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
if I'm dealing with like this person acting this way, or this person being really chaotic, and this person handling things in a way that causes so much confusion, and you kind of think it's you for most of your life. And that was definitely something I feel like I can strongly relate to. I just felt like I was weirdly good at it and I didn't know why. Like, why was I so skilled at grief so young? Why was I so good
Mm.
at like crying through things and moving through things? Or like, why was I good at just like handling things in the moment? I didn't really understand it. And again, of course, that makes me look unwell. And I mean, my poor sister and I, we were told that our entire childhoods, like, we're the unwell ones. And so, like, yeah, I completely agree with that. Like, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
So you and your sister both had to go through the crap and everything together. Y'all had to both, experience the same traumas and things like that. You know,
yeah,
I guess my question would be, which one is older? You're your sister.
she is, but her and I handled it very, very differently.
Okay.
We went in totally different directions with this. So, but yeah, she'll tell you that I function more as the older than she does.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Because a lot of times the oldest one is normally the one that catches the blunt of everything, because they're the first one there, and then the second one, normally that's how the roles go, The older ones are constantly protecting the younger one, but some once in a while you get that younger one that don't care, be like, I got you, I got your back, and everything. Um, and it helps mold us too. It molds us into some really strong individuals. And I don't look. Don't get me wrong. I don't wish that on no one. I really don't. Because what's that saying that you just said? It's not you, it's me type thing. Yeah, we all messed up. We have to admit that at some point, right? Like, no, it's you. It's not you. It's me. Yeah. So tell walk us through some of your experiences to help the audience understand, because I know there's going to be somebody out there that do understand, or maybe even struggling with some of the things that you have gone through, and share some of how you got um, grew through that and became the person that you are today, the strong individual that you are.
Um, I think I'm an introvert, so I gain data through observance.
Hmm.
I think that I ended up doing a lot. I think I survived well doing it this way, because I watched everybody else's poor choices.
Mm,
I watched
okay.
repercussions of those, and then I just would pick the other thing. And I think
Okay.
that actually saved me quite a bit of like unhealthy choices in my life. I mean, I do believe I did the very best I could with what I had, but I definitely didn't make choices I think a lot of other people had every right to make in the situations that, I
Okay.
was put in and my sister were put in. Um, and I think um that I've just been very grateful that I'm just an observant type. And, it's how kind of like my perfectionism really sparked in me. And I, had to do the very best, had to be the best, had to try the best. And even to this, day, I mean, I'm not going to deny I have some sort of accomplishment pathology. So I,
Yeah, yeah,
still,
most definitely.
um, with it. But yeah, I just know that when you're watching a lot of the chaos and you're experiencing, how you're getting treated and the messages you're getting sent at such a young age.
Mm, yes, yes.
And the I know it always brings me out to like, like Inside Out 2, where she's like hitting the belief systems and, the little have you seen Inside Out 2?
I have. I
Yeah.
have. I'm over here thinking to myself, like, I definitely understand what you're talking about. And I never, I never understood a lot of things until I started to relate my experience to a lot of things that happened in the movies and, what I'm saying, books and things like that. And I realized that it takes a person um, to either one having some deep embedded experience, or two, a very very vivid mind to come up with some of this stuff, because it hits home. It hits home, right? And so, for me, it's like before everything, it didn't bother me to do it. But I have to say, inside I was one of those that I experienced in little bits and pieces,
Yeah.
because it brought up something in me that made me, one, very defensive, um, and two, it was like a personal thing for me,
Yeah.
right? So it was hard. It wasn't, but it helped in the healing aspect. But again, these are just my thoughts on it and everything else. But lay it out for me. Lay it out for me. Tell me what you think.
Yeah. So and so I know when I work with people, I call this like grieving the good, but like there's that moment where she kind of hits that belief and it's like, I'm a good person.
Yeah.
Man, I blubbered. Like a lot of us who have grown up with such chaos and very, very different messagings about who we are, like we've never heard things like that in our lives. Like we don't have an echo in our past that pings, that goes, you're you're intelligent, like you're lovely, people like you, there isn't those messages in the back of our head. And it's really painful to, I think, realize, especially when I was growing up, that a lot of people had those messages in their head. They had things that they were told that, like, oh, you're really good at this skill, or you are really intelligent, or you are beautiful, or there's just messaging from healthy parents that are there. And when you start hearing these things for the first time and you're like in your mid-20s, you're kind of like, it's really sad. There's just a huge hit of grief of realizing that it really wasn't that hard to say good things to you, like it
Mm,
was never there. um and so I think, I know for my personal healing journey, it's been a lot of that, because I don't have any like neural pathways that, I mean, late. I've been building them really because I care very much about healing, but like I don't have like those neural pathways weren't there, so I've had to rebuild them,
mm,
later in my
okay.
life. And
Okay.
there's a lot of grief in realizing all these good things about you that you are just now learning. And so I think that's a very important piece of like where my journey starts.
Mhm. Okay.
So I don't know if that answers that
No, no,
question.
that actually helps. We actually have a comment over here on Instagram. Uh, Joyly On's Rising. Hopefully, I'm not slaughtering your name. They said very similar situation to themselves and their older sibling as well. So they was relating to what you were talking about. And do me a favor, guys, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section. And again, Laura's here, and she's written a book. She's she's walked the walk and talked the talk, and she is amazing. So, guys, you know, get those comments coming in. We be able to answer them as we go. So, I love the fact that you brought up having to rebuild or build those neural pathways, right? And it sounds very similar, because as a man, like, we're taught to suppress everything, right? Suppress, not express. And so we're taught to struggle in silence, not to articulate that we're messed up, things like that, right? And the problem is that as a child, we have to develop other means of expressing ourselves, which in turn, when you meet us as grown up adults, you think that something's wrong with us. And we do the best that we can with what we have to work with. I bet you just said that, not just we're doing the best that we can with what we have to work with, but it's such a misinterpretation,
Yes.
right? And so now you have, you know, what we call now very unhealthy emotionally, mentally, spiritually individuals trying to function in a dysfunctional world
Yeah.
after coming from a dysfunctional family or background. And we tend to choose individuals that fit that narrative, right? So I have a really good friend, and she's been working on herself for quite some time, but she still makes a lot of bad decisions. I'm constantly on her butt. She's like my sister, but I'm constantly on her butt. I'm like, look, you cannot keep choosing men that abuse you and then get upset that they abuse you.
Yeah.
She goes, well, I don't, and she finally admitted, she goes, I don't know what I would do if I had someone who didn't do this. And it really dawned on me
Mhm.
how many of us have that embedded in us, that normality, that this becomes our day-to-day norm.
Yes. And I I think in situations like this, the question is always choose your hard. Familiar, I think a lot of people misinterpret familiar with easier. And I don't know that familiar is easier. I just think it's a different kind of hard because you have the strong neural pathway of familiar with the exact same outcome and consequences, or you have to rebuild the neural pathway for a different pattern, for a
Mm,
different way of living. And they're both hard. So I've always taken like those phrases and have asked people to kind of choose your hard because familiar does not mean easier. And
right, right.
so, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, I was agreeing with you because you're absolutely right. It doesn't mean easier. It just means that it's just a norm,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't mean because the struggle is always going to be the same, right? And I'm just like yourself. I'm an introvert, um, and it took me a long time to realize that throughout my life, I've always had these relationships that were very similar. So it allowed me to be able to blame other individuals, and it allowed me to easily sabotage it because I would notice those same similarities, aka the red flags, right? And I was quick to blame them. Then I realized as I got older and I began the path of healing that I was the toxic one, right? I was the one that was messed up. And so I took a few years to work, like you said, rebuilding those pathways and choosing something different. And you're right, it wasn't easy. It was hard because every time I found myself being attracted to someone, I would have to stop, take a breath, listen to the conversation that I'm having, and then I would have to say, no, I'm not going to do this again. And so the last few years, I've just been going, no, I don't, I'm not going to do it. I would rather I would rather be by myself than to go and keep choosing the same things over and over again.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, those are like my favorite kind of clients to work with. It's just like what you said. Like the amount of self-discipline it takes to realize the type of toxic that you're attracted to
Mhm.
is it's amazing the amount of effort that is to go, "Ooh, I'm really attracted to that," and then go, "Wait, why am I attracted to that?" You know? And go, "Wait a
Right,
minute."
right.
That like holdback of and I ask a lot of my clients of like when you go like looking for somebody, I want you to give me like try to identify with that. Ooh, I like that. Like, ooh, I really like that. And I'm like, what is that? What is that you're saying? Like that draw is? And then we need to make sure that isn't tied to anything unhealed.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, yeah.
question it and give yourself quite a bit of self-discipline because it's been amazing when I've unraveled some of that with people that I've worked with. They go, "Oh my gosh, that's so scary. I can't believe I'm attracted to that." And I'm like, "Yeah, like I hope it scares you now." Like when you realize that that's something that you're
Yeah.
looking for because that I believe, Tony, this is why the work that you're doing is absolutely amazing, with men because, like you said, the suppress and not express, and just learning healthy emotional work, and being able to, there's a time and a place, right? We don't want to do grief work with unsafe people. And when, you're doing this and you're healing yourself really well, your choices are different. And
Yes.
start healing some really unhealthy stuff from your past. And what we're talking about is like romantic relationships. When you start healing that, your change in like attraction, like it changes.
Yes.
And shifts, and you go, oh, that's why, and you start to make more sense to yourself. And this is one of those reasons why grief is so vital in our journey and in our life, because it changes the way we view the world. It changes the way we view ourselves, and it changes the way we understand something.
Yes. Yes. And the crazy part about it is that when you rush the process, you tend to think that you're in a better place than what you are, right? And it's so easy to turn back around, because it's that thing that comes in and go, oh, I'm in a good place, right? But you never really pay attention to, because you have done some work on yourself. You just have not done enough work on yourself, right? You don't. I want to be careful about how I say this, but I want to be, I don't want to sugarcoat it. I want to say that people are so used to getting what they want that they sometimes miss what they need.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so you may feel that you've done all of this work, but then, what I'm saying, here comes the diamonds, here comes the gold and the glitter. And the first thing, if you have ADD, you just quickly turn back around, and you don't realize until it's too late that it's just the same thing, just dressed in a different outfit.
Yeah.
Right?
No, 100%.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I can geek out with you about this, and the fact of like, so our nucleus accumbens is that part of our brain that does instant gratification. It's why like the phones work, and why we, sugar's amazing, any sort of addiction, right? And we're kind of like making that pathway really strong. And what you're describing is a perfect example of self-discipline, and like the choice of self-discipline, and disciplining yourself to see the long-term outcome of a difficult situation, right? And so when you go through the healing and you go, oh, I've dealt with this too with people in my work. I've cried once about this. I'm fine. It's all better. And you're I know. No, I'm sure you've cried like a piece of a part that you've needed to, but there's for how long you've been struggling with a thing. Crying once, my dear, is not the the result of this. And one of those things that I think come in the reality of grief, right, is self-discipline gets better in grief, in based on exactly what you said, right? Because I've never talked to somebody who goes, oh my gosh, I totally regret like grieving that. Why did I deal with that? What's wrong with me? Like, I've never heard that. I've always heard, man, I needed that. Wow, I really needed to, do that. I've been holding that in for a long time, right? These are things I hear over and over and over. I know you have too, right? And grief encourages that self-discipline, that the reward is after the pain. And when you haven't disciplined yourself enough to realize that the reward is after the pain, you nailed it. Why would you go through the pain when you can find the glittery thing right there and shorten that nucleus accumbens and make it a lot more immature to just get the thing right now. I can get it right now. And that is an active role that you have to play in self-disciplining yourself.
Yes.
And that's hard.
It is. And I want to add to that, right? Because in my own personal experience, especially working with men, but mostly working with myself, I can't speak for all the men out there, just to, so for myself, when I got into this work is when I really started realizing that I had to start setting boundaries, right? When I actually really started understanding grief, and it became a crucial part of my lifeline, right? I knew that this was what I wanted to do. I knew that for some odd reason it pulled me in. Now, I talked about, the things that you wanted versus things that you need, right?
Yeah.
My whole entire life, I've always gotten what I wanted. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. The model, the rich girl, the rider. I've had them all. And they all turned out the same way. I just realized that the only difference was the person, but the troubles and the trouble was still the same. You know, um, and when I got into actually understanding my gift, I realized that it was me, right? It was me. It wasn't them. And I realized that they were attracted to what I was carrying.
Yeah.
And when you're reckless and don't understand that, you think that you're doing something special and you really aren't. And then you get mad when they've gotten from you what they need
Mhm.
and they're looking for a way out. So I've just eliminated a part of it instead of going, okay, what I'm saying, we're going to do this. I just went, you know what? I can walk with you until you get to your next destination. And I can love you in all the different ways, except for physically. I can't be intimate with you because I now understand why you're here. And so these are the boundaries that I have to set,
Yeah.
right? Because I would rather give my gift to you than to feel that you owe me something for it.
Right.
And I get it. I do. I do. But I would rather be a respectable person and leave you better than what I found you for the person that you're supposed to be with.
Mhm.
And that goes for anybody that I walk with. I listen to conversations, and a lot of people don't understand the term trauma bonding, and it happens so fast.
Yes.
It happens so fast that you think the one thing, oh, we got a lot in common, this, that, another, and not understanding that you're both just really attracted to the traumas that you've experienced, and you're looking for ways of healing, and in turn, you end up draining one another.
Yeah. Surviving together
Right,
isn't
you're surviving
dating.
together. You're not living, and then eventually, and I've seen maybe about two relationships actually last more than 4 or 5 years, right? Which is a beautiful thing. It's only because at some point they decide to go get some counseling, right? But as men, as human beings, we have to learn to love ourselves, be alone with ourselves first, and be able to take care of ourselves because we set the pace of how others treat us, right? We set the pace. We show people how to love us in those different ways. So if you don't treat yourself well, don't ask the next person to do it, right? Make sure you order what you need versus what you want. And that comes with a lot of discipline. It comes with a lot of I got to get rid of these old habits type thing, right? You know what I'm saying? And develop good, healthy habits in order to function. But again, I digress. I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. You're just right. You just- um. y- Yeah. Like uh, that type of accountability is only seen in the emotionally mature. When you are able to hold yourself to that level of responsibility and accountability, that is earned. I believe that is an emotional skill set that you earn and work hard to get. And it is necessary as to continue to be a growing person to stay on top of it and
Hmm.
keep yourself accountable and keep yourself responsible. And I just think that that story was so beautifully put on the importance of why taking a hold of the emotional turmoil that we carry and how deeply it hurts people is so vital to deep and true connective relationships.
Yes, yes. My next question would be, right, when we talk about emotional awareness and emotional intelligence, I want to get your thoughts on this because in my thoughts, I understand that they're totally two different things, right? And when we as people, we often want people who can determine or distinguish between the two, right? And I've been trying to tell people for a long time. I was like, yeah, there's when you're healing, I and here's my definition of it, right? And this is how I associate it with grief. Grief will help you become emotionally aware
Yeah.
because, as you said, like when you're going through the healing process, it hurts. It hurts. It's revealing. It will take you down a path that you never thought was possible. But if you can weather it, and you can address those things, you can allow yourself to feel, right, and learn to articulate what you're feeling in its truthness. To me, that is emotional awareness. Now, during the healing process, you become more aware when these things arise, the triggers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And that is what I like to call the emotional intelligent part of it, right? And there's a separation. There's definitely a separation, but it takes a long time to get to that. Now, again, this is just how I interpret it, and I know there probably be somebody out there or multiple people out there that are that may have a different definition of it, right? So I want to get your thoughts on it. I want to get your thoughts on it. And what do you think?
I actually agree with you. I think my language is just different for it, but I think I mean, that's on point. I've always understood. So, like, okay, I believe that there is emotional logic. Emotions do make sense. They do come from somewhere and they do have a place that they're born and they do have a thing. They are important and they're important for us to pay attention to. And again, I do think we're saying the same thing. I'm just using maybe different language for it, but like an intelligent person understands how emotional logic works. An easy example, because a lot of people are like, what is emotional logic? That sounds like an oxymoron. But like if a guy is, he's this bachelor dude, just an example. I don't know anybody like this. This is an easy example, but like,
okay, I do.
He's a bachelor dude and he's like, going through women like every weekend, and he, drinks a lot, and he is constantly blaming like the woman, like, that one snored too loud, I didn't like her. Oh, her boobs are weird, I'm not dealing with her anymore. Like, there's always an excuse to not continue a relationship, right? And then it's like super weird. He like tells his best friend that he's so lonely. Oh, why am I so lonely? Why is it that I feel like I can't connect to anybody? And I feel like every time that I attempt to, it just doesn't work. And I'm going, okay, so you're telling me that's not emotionally logical. Like, of course, you feel lonely, you kind of see the system that you might be unaware of, right?
Mm-hmm.
That lonely makes sense right here. Like, so there's clearly emotional logic. So yeah, I think that like people who have emotional intelligence might understand emotional logic, and I agree with you, that does not mean that they have emotional self-awareness, and they have an idea of how they're influencing that understanding of that perspective. And I often refer back to Bessel van der Kolk's book on The Body Keeps the Score, because the words you're using about how you articulate that emotion, he goes into talking about how that's the Broca, this little circular part of our brain, and it is designed to take the objective and move it into the subjective and move it into objective data, i.e. when you see a piece of artwork and you try to describe what it feels like to you, That's you
Yeah.
activating your broca, right? And emotions use the same thing. So if you're trying to describe a subjective material, i.e. emotion, and then turn it into articulate words in an objective way, you're activating your broca. So I like to use
Okay.
that language a lot. But yeah, I agree with you completely on that.
Now, I have a question because I love the way that you articulated that as well. And oftentimes, when I'm helping other individuals, men, and I do work with some women, I help educate them on creating an atmosphere, and maintaining a healthy environment for men to be not only be vulnerable but feel vulnerable, but be patient with us as we learn to articulate our different emotions. Because when it comes down to a lot of things, we often will stick to the basics. Anger, depression, anxiety, etc. Right? The things that we understand. It's the things that we don't understand, that we don't know how to make them make sense.
Yeah.
And so often what I've done is that I've associated grief, and this is like a fun little exercise. You let me know what you think about this. I've often said, imagine a Picasso, your grief as a Picasso, right? But it doesn't make sense at this moment. It's just a blending of colors
Yes.
on a canvas. That's all it is. It's just it has no real definitive form to it just yet. Now imagine as you go through the process of not only addressing um, the emotional aspect, but understanding and having a relationship with your grief.
Yeah.
It becomes this intimate thing. Now the colors on the canvas has now changed colors. It's starting to make a little bit of sense. And every time you heal a piece of yourself, say for instance your childhood trauma, that color will pop out a little bit more. You're able to move it around. And what I find, and again, I'm only speaking from a different perspective. What I find that once everything is put together, you it's revealing the version of yourself that you need,
Yeah.
right? But you have to be able to determine where those colors go.
Yes.
The different emotions, how to articulate. Because once you learn something, it makes sense,
Yep.
right? Not everything is anger.
Right.
Now, and I say that to say this because when men cry, this is the anger that we express,
Mhm.
and it can look so doggone messy. I know, been there. There's times where look, I'm not perfect. There's times where I do have an emotional breakdown. And I have to catch myself because that part of me that wants to run into the world and survive. I'm an introvert by nature, which most people couldn't tell because I'm doing this. I'm all out in the open now, right? But I tell people, look, man, I have a small window where I'm brave enough to face you, to talk to you, right? But then after that, it's like it's like something inside of me goes, and I have to go sit by myself for a little bit to articulate and get my shit together. Okay, really just get my shit together. And I don't want to talk to nobody. I just, I just want to sit there, and it keeps me from disappearing into the world, so to speak. And so again, I am still, even as a men's grief coach, I am still putting together the colors of my canvas.
I think you just defined like a growing person. I think our society has this really weird understanding of how healing works. Like
Mm.
there's this moment of like, ah, I did it. And it's super goofy to me because like healthy healing people sound like you, right? All of us who are in a growth mindset say what you said. We go, here's where I'm working on my part of that canvas.
Mhm.
Here's where I'm looking at this from a different lens. Here's like, this is what health sounds like. It sounds like
Yeah.
this. There isn't this magical moment where you just make it. I think that there's something weird culturally going around that like, oh, and I just like don't deal with it anymore. And I'm like, that's a really wild life. That's so weird to me.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right. And you know what I think, and tell me what you think about this. I think too many people read these romance novels, or they watch too many romance movies on TV. Now, don't get me wrong, I love The Notebook. I love I love saying she got mail, you got mail. I like Sleepers in Seattle. I love all of those different things. But don't judge me. Do not judge me, Lauren. I will
no,
tell you
I
right
said they
there.
give you all the feels there. I love them too.
Yeah, okay, okay. I was about to be like, she judged me with her judging eyes right now. She's like, oh
No,
no,
I'm
no,
judging me if I'm
no.
judging you because I love that stuff.
Look, I'm having fun over here. I am so having fun because I love all of those different things, right? But the way that the world works is not that way. And I really enjoy Sleepers in Seattle, and those that know, right? Tom Hanks lost lost his wife, and here he is with Jonah, his son, and things like that. And Meg Ryan, I always thought them two they had just like the right chemistry, right? And plus, I was a huge, I love Meg Ryan, loved her, and Julia Roberts, right? So saying the amazing Erin Brockovich, yes, I love that as well. And so I think sometimes we can get into a fantasy world to where we want something like that, right? We want to be able to go to New York and meet somebody at the top of the tower, and what I'm saying, and have all of these fireworks and things like that.
The
And then
stuff.
when the movie's over, what I'm saying, then you got somebody sitting around with a big old 40 ounce, and then that's when the reality hits. Like, this is not this that's not reality. But I think the more trauma that we get embedded in that we do not release, it's easier to fantasize about a life that takes us away from the reality that we're living.
100%. It distorts the perception of reality. Absolutely.
See, and Rachel just called me out. She goes, she said, "No one is judging you, Tony. You know what?
No,
Whatever, Rachel. Whatever. This is my story. I'm sticking to
nobody's judging you. Everyone loves it.
it."
They just aren't willing to admit it, and they should because yeah, those are great movies. And yeah, and but you nailed it. We create the movie like fantasy in our head because we think that that's real, and all that is the story. I mean,
Right,
people
right.
don't realize that people's lives go on after the end says the end. Like in real life, they keep going. like
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
fantasizing a story, and those are pretty and fun. We all love the pretty fun stories, right? But to
Yeah,
believe that the outcome of the end is actually the end, I think is the scary part.
yeah. See, and here's so people that know me know I like I like some horror movies, right? And there's two particular that I find to be the best romance movies out there. One is Bram Stoker's Dracula. Okay, love that one. Have you seen it? Gotta watch it. Gotta watch it. Right? Keanu Reeves was in it. It's a good movie, right? And the other one is the Wolfman with Benicio del Toro, right, and Sean Connery, I believe. And if you can watch both of those, you would understand what I'm talking about because it has a little bit of everything. And so it takes you out of the fantasy world, but puts you in a real life situation. If you can break it down, the whole scenario, right? The logic behind it. It's like, here are some beasts, right? That's been around for quite some time. But they all, in fact, they find that woman or and everything, and it keeps them focused on trying to build a life with them, but they're torn in between the worlds. And it at some point it does turn around, right? And you see where it actually is. And so I've learned how to interpret those things, but also, it's something wrong with me because I can look at those movies and be like, I'm with that. I'm with that right there, right? Um, And it's only because I believe as human beings, as people on this world, I do believe that we have a primal side to us that craves that, right? It's just a normal thing for us,
What is
right?
that? Wait, crave that. What's that?
We crave we crave the thought of being wanted by somebody, to see,
Oh,
for somebody to see us the way that we are, right, without judgment,
yeah.
and be willing to walk with you,
Yeah.
no matter, and they understand, like, this is a part of who you are.
Yeah, I mean, that is primal to be seen and understood so
Mm,
deeply to the soul level that you know that you are seen for your authentic self and
yeah.
loved inside of your healing and growth
Mm,
is
there you go. Yes.
absolutely a desperate need that shows up biologically. I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. And if we look at it in today's world, I believe that's what a lot of us are doing. It's a primal side to us, right? And if you can understand that right there, you can learn and develop yourself in such a strong way that everything makes sense.
Learning to love yourself in this is a challenge. Definitely.
Mm, yes, most definitely. But I think that's the key to it, right?
Yeah.
You said in the beginning, like, these things are not easy.
No.
We spend majority of our lives destroying ourselves through decisions that we make.
Mhm.
And it's easy to hate ourselves. Hell, most of the conversations that we have before we even start our healing journey, it sounds like somebody just coached us how to be negative towards ourselves. We don't like ourselves very much. We don't. If we look at ourselves in a mirror, how many people out there can look yourself in a mirror? Well, not now, but in the beginning, when you had to heal from the trauma and the addiction and the mental health, and what I'm saying, all of these different things, to see where your life was. How many times did you look at yourself in the mirror and go, I love myself?
Right. Exactly.
Or did your conversation sound more of, you're a dumbass?
Yeah. No,
Look at what you got us into now.
my belief systems, again, going right back to that inside out, you ping them. Mine are like, you're never going to be loved. You're never going to be enough. It's not going to happen for you. You're not going to be
Mhm.
chosen. Right. Those were, I mean, the hit home beliefs that, I mean, man, those are hard to undo.
Yeah.
You grieve a part of your identity because
Yes.
believing in those things is what's kind of kept you emotionally alive. Because as long as you believe that you're like not loved or not good enough, it also kind of gives you this motivation to sort of want to prove them wrong, but also like survive it in a way where you're like, yeah, I'm not, but I'm still like living. And so when you go through the grieving process, you have to say goodbye to these pieces of your identity that got you
Mhm.
to the place of healing. And I think
Yes.
if we're going to articulate what's hard, I would argue that is the hardest part. That is the hardest part, because for me to go, who am I if I was just one day enough? That's freaking terrifying. What does
Mm.
it mean if one day I woke up and I was actually just loved because I was me and I'm already a hardworking like person that cares, and so I don't need to keep trying to earn anything from anyone? What if I woke up one day and I just didn't have to keep trying? That's what's so scary. That's what's so painful. Saying goodbye to the pieces of the identity that have brought you here and helped you survive to get to this very day.
There you go,
That,
right there.
it's so challenging and devastating.
But I think that's why we do the work that we do, because we do understand that, right? And we develop those tools, and now we can put it in a way to help others, under not only understand it, but be able to implement those tools to help them walk through it, right? Because the key to it is, you can tell a person all day long, this, try doing it this way, right? But the truth of the matter is that we have to learn to pivot with the individuals that we with, right? There's no one size fits all. We have to be able to cater the words that we say to those individuals while giving them information on how to navigate, right? And the crazy part about it is, Lauren, is that the self-talk that we have um, can destroy worlds if a person actually understood what it was. I make it a point every day. I tell people I got six people living inside of my head. I argue with them every day just to determine who I'm going to be. All right, you know, and that's just my analogy. Okay,
Love it.
because there's times when I get up and I'm not the kindest person to myself. Right, I'm not the most positive person to myself. I'm constantly going, you could have did this. You could do this. You were supposed to do this. You didn't get this done. How many people are you letting down right now? You're a disappointment. All of these different things, all of these different scenarios that I play inside of my head. And some of it comes from being an abused child, not by my parents or anything like that, but by outside of home, you know. And so, like, it was that whole thing. And now in my adult years, before I even go outside, I address these things. I'm gonna look. I'm gonna address it with me first before I let somebody else address it with me. Because I want to become aware of where I am. And sometimes, if I'm not in the best of place, I'm not coming around you until I get there, right? And that means that I may have to sit down with myself. I may have to cuss myself out 4 or 5 times. You know what I'm saying? Within the first 30 minutes of waking up. Look here, you son of a bitch. No, to get it together, man. Get it together. And I may go out there into the world and I may become what someone else needs
Yeah,
because I took the time to address those things. And
absolutely.
and as hard as it may be, it's totally worth it, right? Because you never know what someone else is going through. And we as people, as the human race, we spend a lot of times judging people before we get the chance to understand what they're going through, instead of just saying this stops with me.
Yes. So the thing you're describing is the sense of relief, peace, and a different sense of identity when you've done this work. And I'm with you 100% on this. There's nothing in this world that gets you to this place that it takes grief to get here. Nothing else can get you here the way grief can. It
Mm,
is the path to that sense of solid sense of self and knowing thyself and knowing how you work and what you need, because people who have done this work and who heal well organically heal well other people because of I don't know how familiar you are with the attachment theories.
I'm very familiar with it. I I understood it before I knew what it was.
Sure. But like a secure attached people, they don't even
Mm,
mean to be healing people. If they're just like dating somebody who's in one of the other three and they're just themselves, the other person organically starts moving towards secure, because they're just them. They're all, they're not causing confusion, right? They're not having issues in, what they're saying. They don't have problems trying to, they don't try to manipulate people, right? They don't try to do these things. They're already
right.
trustworthy, right? And so they don't have to prove anything. They just have to be themselves, which will help anybody who's had to deal with those things move closer and closer, because
Mhm.
I don't know if that's making any sense. It was a little bit
No, no, it
complicated.
makes perfect sense. But it take look, you I love the way that you put that out there, and I want to explain to the audience as well. If you're not familiar with it and how that works, is once you begin to move in the direction of that, um, there's obstacles that you would have to overcome in order to develop certain things, because the whole attachment theory, people are attracted to the thing that they're familiar with. So say for instance, you may run across somebody who's on a different level of learning and learning how to articulate in their healing journey, right? Whether it be trauma or grief or alcoholism, well, addiction. They may be struggling with suicidal ideation. This is why, like, birds of a feather, they say flock together. That's why addicts hang out with addicts. That's why drug dealers hang out with drug dealers, but their best friends are addicts, right? It's like a glove, right? You know what I'm saying? You got your right hand and you got your left hand. And sometimes in that healing journey, you just are attracted to someone who have gone through similar things. Now, like most of us, childhood trauma, addiction, homelessness, all of these different things, meaning if you can take that as one individual, those multiple pieces of yourself, you will then understand that the people that you're attracted are attracted to those multiple pieces of yourself, right? And so it is up to you to determine what pieces of yourself that they are attracted to through conversation. And this is where I tell a lot of people, if you're going to get into this work, you first have to learn how to shut up. Because people will tell you what they are, people will reveal to you what they need. Then you can go back in and go, I went through something similar to this. This is what they're needing from me, right? I can use my experience of how I got to where I am to be able to give to them in hopes that they can take it and be able to use it and in a way that benefits them, so to speak. I hopefully I didn't confuse it too much.
Yeah. Well, my point that, like, when you have decided to do this healing work and put yourself through the self-discipline of grieving these parts of your identity, there what you were describing earlier was, yeah, just the sense of like peace and relief, and like you don't have to keep working for things that don't make sense for you to work for. You're not fighting for pieces of your identity to hold on to anymore, and it allows you to just you being in that space will organically heal people around you.
Right. Yes.
Your language changes, your perspective is different, the way you're articulating stuff is very different, how you see yourself. And that is, I think, what you and I care so deeply about when we walk people through grief, is we want to hold their hands through this, because one, you and I both know what it's like to do it alone.
Yes.
Two, you don't have to do it alone. I mean, maybe not a lot. I know there weren't people there for me to hold my hand through. I'm not entirely sure, but there might not be a lot of people to hold your hand. And those of us who know how to hold your hand through this, I mean, I know it would have been invaluable to me. And so being able to give this to people in a way that allows them to not feel the way I guess you and I had to, deal with this. It's invaluable to know that you're not alone, or you're not crazy, and you're rebuilding parts of yourself, because the benefit you get from this is actually an entirely different life. Your whole life is different if you do this. Your entire choices change. The way you view the world changes. The people who you allow close to you changes. Like, it is such a massive transformational experience. Like, you're really getting out of this cocoon thing, and you will not be the person you were if you prioritize this type of healing. And I think that's why people like you and me have such passion. We're like, no, you don't understand this other life over here. Like, oh, no, you don't see yet. And I know you can't see it yet, but like, when you're able to do this work, nothing's the same. And it is the most freeing, relieving, And like, you kind of get to feel like you're the designer of your life in a way you've never thought you were. And you go, whoa, I could do that. I never thought I could do that. Like you wouldn't even think that way before, right? It wouldn't even be in your wheelhouse. And I think it's difficult for people to understand like why this emotional work matters to people like you and I so much, because
Yeah.
you watch it happen and you watch somebody completely change in a sense where they are just so proud of themselves and they like their choices. Man, like nothing, there's nothing that beats that. It's amazing.
Right. Right. And and I don't know how familiar you are with shadow work, right?
Oh, yeah.
I started researching, and then I got the shadow work book and everything, and I was just like, whoa, this is crazy, right? Because it added an extra element that I hadn't thought about. But I guess in a way that when you get into this field, you really are doing a lot of shadow work. So a lot of it really makes sense. And it's good to have those extra tools. And you know what I'm saying? Because it does bring up those other things that maybe you didn't think about, right? And so, you know, I started I implemented some of those tools and stuff in a program that I wrote for it's called the resilience program, and it's as it is exactly what it is. It's designed to help men address those things. It's a 12-week course, and so throughout those 12 weeks, it is designed to take you through the ringer. It is designed to bring those things that you thought that you was going to hide and have to write it down and be honest with yourself. And someone asked me, they said, "Why do you have the men write these things down?" I said, "Because there's a sense of reality
Yeah,
that comes along with that. If
absolutely.
you keep it up here, it's easy for you to dismiss it.
Yes.
When you write it down, you're now looking at the reality and you have to address it
Yeah.
because it's a reminder that this is some of the things that you have held um, um, and now you know that this may become a problem. I want to say thank you, big Mike over here on Instagram. Thank you for tuning in. The holistic coach Lisa, Q Counseling, Nottingham joined in. Twinkle Together Group, Lynn Fox, everybody over here on Instagram that tuned in. Everybody on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube that is tuned in. Guys, thank you guys for tuning in. And again, if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head on over to that YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. This helps us get it out there. If you know anyone who could benefit from the conversation that we have, please share this with them. Leave us some questions and comments. I'm here with Laura. She's amazing. We're going to be talking about her book here in a minute. Her information is in the YouTube channel. Go over there and check her out. She's out there doing some amazing work, right? We're talking about trauma and healing those traumas, the different things that we've had to do to address those things. And we're just having a blast right now. Okay, we're having a blast. So welcome everybody. And we've been going for a little bit now. So so I probably won't keep it too much longer and everything. But thank you guys. Love you too, bro. Love you too, man. And big, everybody just show her some mad support. You know what I'm saying? And we got Rachel Bryan over here. She is the one who actually designed my logo up here in the magazines and so many other things. She's amazing over there, guys. Go check her out if you need some work done, please. Big shout out to her and everyone else up here. I know a lot of people up here, and a lot of people welcome Miss Laura Moulton. All right. So you
Yes.
know, I want to talk about your book a little bit. I
Yeah.
want to talk about your book. What made you decide to write a book?
Okay. Here. All right. Gloves are coming off with
You,
this.
you
All
got
right.
you got the cover. You got the book with you.
I do upstairs. I can go grab it. I
Okay.
should have brought it. I actually have a picture of it on my phone though. I could do that.
You know what? I'm over your stuff already, Lauren. I'm over your stuff already. All right. You know you're supposed to have the book up there.
Yeah, I had actually, what's funny is it's next to my coffee mug upstairs because it was to remind myself to bring it down.
You
That's
didn't bring no coffee.
I didn't do,
Oh,
it was Okay, yeah. So my book looks like this. Now, if I can get here we go. I have no idea if you can even see this.
Yeah, we can. You can definitely. Yeah, keep it right there. Boundaries, grieving the living. You guys, and where can people find that?
Amazon.
Amazon. Go to Amazon, support it, get that book, you guys, and everything. I love that. I love that. I love that cover right there. That is beautiful. That is definitely beautiful. I know, right? That looks really cool, right? Right, Rachel. That is freaking awesome. And congratulations on becoming an author. That is freaking amazing as well. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that was actually kind of hard for me. Okay, so yeah, I'll tell you how this worked. Okay, so I graduated in 2015. I opened my business in 2017, and I, for the longest time, I've been specializing in like adult children of parents with personality disorders. And this is when therapy was still not cool. This was pre 2020, where
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
and this is where, and this is before the narcissism blow up. And so I was doing this work before all of this like became a thing. And I worked really, really hard for, I saw 35 to 40 clients a week for going on 10 years of doing this work of healing people from emotional abuse and verbal abuse. And I extended it all the way to, anything from starting to emotional to like physical abuse. This was my bread and butter. Like I really loved helping people heal from these things. This
Yeah.
is something I care deeply about. I just know the world and I do this. And one of the things I kept running into, it was like, I was repeating myself, Tony, like I was going to go insane. I'm
Mm.
not kidding. I was like, okay, how many times do I have to kind of like walk it was almost like, I felt like I was just going to just start going into yellow wallpaper crazy, like legit. I was like, I'm repeating the same phrases. I'm saying the same things. I'm working on the same issues. I'm talking to them about the same problems. And it like ultimately resolved around the boundaries that were so painful and difficult to implement. And I
Mhm.
was like, man, I've been using this method for years and people are telling me, and of course it's confidential, so they're not telling anybody else, but like it works and it's worked for hundreds of my clients. And there's this method that you go through so boundaries has two sides, right? You have this, you set them and you respect them, right? So you have boundaries that you set yourself, and then you have boundaries that you have to respect that other people have set towards you.
Yes.
And I'm going on the angle that wasn't talked about in the literature because I read all the boundary books and I loved all them. And I'm a reader, so like I read for fun in my field. I'm a nerd, like full blown nerd. So like I dive into all the stuff, and I care. I just care too much. I'm one of these people. So like the literature talks so much about boundaries, but they don't talk a lot about how the other angle, which is what do you do when somebody else puts them towards you? So in my book, I redefine boundaries as respecting the decisions that people have already made. And now there's obviously an acknowledgement that there is the side of where you make them, of course, but the pain seems to be a little bit more intense when you're not respecting what people have put towards you.
Mm.
And when somebody else makes a boundary towards you, what happens to a lot of people is that they're fighting tooth and nail for these relationships. They bend over backwards. They people please. They deny who they are. They're very self-sacrificial. I'll do anything. I will do this for you. And like, I'll drop everything. And they just sacrifice so much of themselves to save what they believed they had in a relationship, because they're not actually respecting the fact that like they maybe don't want them in their lives anymore, or maybe they don't really care about them very much, or they're only there to use them and they just don't want to hear it. They just don't want to hear it until they keep trying. And the thing that kept getting hung up was people weren't grieving. They would not grieve the relationship. And I kept running into this for years. And I was like, man, there's a hang up here. Like people
Yeah.
will get to a point and then there's a wall, and there's this grief wall that they are like terrified of. And I'm like, oh no, we can't let you be afraid of this. Like you are in a situation where you get to either live the way you're living, exhausted, not good enough, people pleasing, perfectionistic, just unfunctional,
Right.
or you go through this scary grief wall. Like you're at a fork in the road, and I ran into so many people where, I mean, they've tried all the things, right? And now they're in this fork. I do this or I don't, and I got to the point where I was like, that's it. I'm writing it in a book and I'm just handing it out.
I can't wait.
And then get to me with any of your questions or any of your help like that you want, because this is super important on where the hang up is. And I think so many of us aren't taught emotional literacy, right? We're not taught emotional skill sets. We're not taught emotional like articulation and why do I feel this way? And why is this so hard for me? And I think that is an easy mental roadblock to not do the work, right? And that's what you and I were talking about with the whole understanding piece, right? Like if you understand it, you start to make sense to yourself and you start to see how you've always made sense. You give yourself way more grace into going into this as a human that you are.
Right.
And, I go a lot into the book, just things about like how your brain is an organ, it is nothing more than an organ. And if you overwork it and if you over try things and you push it past what it can do, it's going to have pathology. You're going to get, problems. And when you give yourself that grace of humanness, I think you're able to accept grief differently, right? You're able to go, oh, this is just what the brain needs. Like, this is just how the brain is designed. This is how how healing works. And it allows, I hope, my goal, if you will, my intent is to, one, I hope the book makes your life better. Like I really, that was really the point, but to give yourself this perspective of your humanness in this process so that grief becomes less scary and less of something you want to push away. And if you do it, if you just based on everything you and I just talked about, Tony, if you decide to go through this and work through all of that, it just, your life is so different. And I don't know. I'm one of those people who care maybe a little too much that people.
No such thing. There's no such thing, right? There was a quote. There was a quote that I put up not too long ago, and it was a conversation between the therapist and the client. And I'm going to slaughter it because I'm going to switch it up a little bit, but primarily, the therapist had told the client the reason why you treat people the way that you do and give so much to them is because you became the person that you needed when you were hurting the most.
Yeah.
And it's a part of your healing.
Right.
And so when you have people who genuinely care about you, and trust me, I didn't always used to be this way. There's people that know me that know that there's times I didn't, there was a part of my life that I didn't care about a whole lot of people. It was all about surviving, right? And whatever that looked like, that's what I did. Now, most people will go, I regret this and I regret that. I don't regret nothing that I've ever done. I may not be proud of a lot of stuff that I've had to do, but I have no regrets in my world or in my life. The people that are in my life are amazing. And I tell you what, I wouldn't change it for the world. It took a long time for me to get here. There was a video. There was a podcast that was going on. I'm gonna quote this real quick, and get your thoughts on this. But as many people that I've had to go through in my whole entire life, the thousands of people that I've probably encountered that have done me wrong, that have drugged me through the mud, that have tried to hurt me and things like that. And now, mind you, tried, right? They succeeded in their own ways, but didn't succeed in the permanent damage, right? It took me a long time to find good people. And throughout all of those, there's a handful that stayed around. And there was a lot of trust that had to be built.
Yeah.
Because, for one, not only am I learning how to accept people into my world for who they are and not for what I want them to be, but as you mentioned, seeing the other side of the pain and being strong enough, or, in a lot of cases, brave enough, and in many other cases, just dumb enough to keep going,
Yeah.
right? Like who's going to put themselves through this? But I did, right? So there was a multiple things that I had to sit around and go, I can't believe I'm doing this,
Mhm.
right? And you managed to put all of this stuff, all of these things, all of these scenarios into this book to help other individuals. So no, it's not that we care too much. We genuinely care about the people that we serve. That's
Yeah,
all.
I agree. I mean, yeah, I get, I mean, the image that pops in my head when you said that, I was just like, I just had like this flash of like all of these people who did the work, because of all the things you said. You're right. And I'll give you serious credit, just being too stupid to put yourself through like, yes, like I can join in on that one. Like, I'm just like, why am I going through this still? And like, I'm sure a lot of my clients would be like, yeah, I probably fall into that boat. Like, I still did it. Like,
Like, who does this?
yeah, like it's again, it's that self-discipline that we were saying earlier, but like it just like when you said that's like this flash of like they'll tell you their lives are different.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
making different choices. They are viewing people differently. They don't allow the same type of closeness they did before and they do towards the ones they didn't, because of who was healthy and not healthy. And
right, right,
it's
right.
amazing just the turnaround of it when you stay on top of your grief work.
Yeah, you know, it's always conflicting with me when people say I'm done grieving.
Yeah, that doesn't. I've never.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't think, yeah, and okay, and the reason why it's conflicting to me is because maybe it's something that I'm gonna have a hard time wrapping my head around. Like, how do you stop loving the people that impacted your life in such a way just because they're gone, right? Those that understand, or maybe, hey, they may be right. They're maybe they do have a deadline from where they're done grieving. I know some religions do this and some religions do that, and whatever works for you. It's not that for me to determine or decide for you to do those things. You make your own choice as long as it's healthy for you and it works for you. But most importantly, I don't care what people believe as long as it makes you a good person, right? So if you believe that you got to a point to where you're done grieving and things like that, hey, by all means, again, it's conflicting to me, right? Um, because I don't think I could ever stop loving the people that was in my life. That my mom, she was my first love. My dad was my best friend. My younger brother, he was the one that um, I think he looked at me as a role model, although I live 1,750 miles away. I still like to say we had a relationship. When now my sister had a better relationship with him than I did. Now me and my sister, that's my baby girl. She's my ace, right? And then when I think about my son, me and my son was my road dog. He was the one that I was going to teach to take over after I passed away. And so I don't, and then everyone else that have been impacted, my bro, Mike's mom, she was like another mom to me, and everyone else that I've had these relationships and things like that. I don't think I could ever say that I don't love them enough to forget them. And I believe that's what, for me, that is what my grief is. It is the love that I will always be able to express, whether it be through tears or a conversation with anyone. And the work that I do, the work that we do, that is expressed in that.
Yeah.
I
So
don't know if I will ever be able to accept, anything less than saying, "Hey, thank you, thank you for everything that you've given me, and allow me to give back out into the world." Um, so we got a comment over here. It's addressed to you, and the comment goes, "This is from Alvarez, but this is my brother. This is my other brother from another mother. He's out. He's doing amazing things. So he does music and things like that. Guys, check him out as well. He's on TikTok. He does a lot of good videos. He got a lot of great songs for you guys out there. So please check him out. But the comment is, please forgive me. What event made her write the book? I think I joined too late. I think you joined at the right time. I think I didn't. I'm gonna allow her to finish telling you what made her write the book. But
yeah.
that's
Okay. Yeah. So I think I just got really frustrated on repeating myself so much that I put it in the book. And that's really, yes, like after I was going like 10 years of saying the same thing over and over, I was like, I'm either going to go crazy or I'm just going to write it down. um, so I think it did sum up my story. Like that's what made me do it. I was like, and I also think it can help. A book can reach more people than the one-on-one could. So
okay.
yeah, I was
Can
repeating.
I add to that? Because I think I understand where he's coming from. So he did join in a little bit too late to know, what I'm saying, about your childhood trauma. And becoming a grief, getting into the grief field, but having to do the work and things like that. So I think that's what he's referring, if I'm not mistaken, to, because it was a multitude of things that you had to learn, right?
Yeah,
Like we talked about your childhood,
yeah,
and having being an abusive relation, I mean, being an abusive family, destructive relationships, the relationships that you have with your sibling, and things like that, right? That molded you, and at the age of 14, you decided, to get into this field, but it was a lot of work that came along with that. So I think that's what he's actually maybe referring to. If I'm wrong, let me know, Mike, if that's what you are. And so he missed the first beginning part when he was telling the story.
yeah. No, that's fair. I was just going to actually go back to addressing what you were just saying because it was so good. Um, unless there's another question.
No, 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 no. Please.
No, because I wanted to kind of sum up what you were saying because it was so good. But whether a person has passed or whether a person is still living, grief is your receipt for loving well and loving hard.
Yes.
So, as hard as you loved will be as hard as you grieve. And when somebody says, I've completed grieving, I agree with the conflicting feelings of that because I think grief has to be as complex as love is.
Yes. Yes.
And the complexities of how love is, per relationship, it, it's vast, which means that grief will be too. And to have I like completed, like I've completed grieving also though means that you also believe there's completed love. And
Mm.
that's where I think the confliction is. And I think that's what you're saying. But like, I don't know that you can have completed grief because if you could, then that means you have completed love. And I really hope I haven't completed love. My gosh, I would hope that that grows and
Right.
changes
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
shifts, and moves and means things. And I would hate for that to not be a living thing. But if love is, then grief also has to be.
Mm. I like that. I like that. I love the way that you put it in there. And I want to just add something to that as well, right? Because there's been this journey um, of wisdom and deeper understanding of how the mind works in the world, right? Understanding the limited beliefs that are, and I think this will actually tie into grief because we will limit ourselves in grief, saying that we can't do this or, this is not for me, or things like that, right? Instead of just letting ourselves, the creative side of our mind, which is the unconscious mind, because the conscious mind is very limited in the beliefs. We limit ourselves by the laws of physics,
Yeah.
whereas the unconscious mind takes those beliefs and throws them out the window and go, no, you can still connect to the energy in the world from the people who are gone.
Yeah.
And I find that to be not only fascinating, but it brings a sense of deeper exploration in grief, right? And one so bad for others to understand that through through the traumas, through the addictions, through the trials and tribulations of life, to understand that whatever you tell yourself in this world will be your truth. But whatever you allow yourself to experience will also be your truth. It's the way that you articulate it through through that connection, I believe. And that's why I don't think that grief will ever be limited. But again, this is just my thoughts into the world because I believe that grief is such a shared experience across the board that it is, I can experience your grief through that connection, which allows me to understand and walk with you in a way to have a deeper understanding,
Empathy. Yeah.
empathy, right? But also to be able to allow you to make your own footsteps in the sand.
Yeah.
So those that come behind you can understand your story.
Yeah.
And I believe that truth switches and changes as we grow, right? There was a famous singer that said, "You will grow through what you go through."
Yeah.
So we got another question. What if you feel the depletion of love to the point where grief is the constant? I love that question. I love the question. Um, I'm gonna let. What you think? What do you think about that?
I need more information, so I kind of want you to answer it because
Okay.
I feel like I need more data to answer it.
And anybody join in and give your thoughts on this. What if you feel the depletion of love to the point where grief is the constant? Okay. I'm gonna do my best to answer this. My thought would be it's not a depletion of love, but it's the unspoken and unexperienced of the love that may or may not dare, but it's the thought of what it could be from what it was. And when grief is the constant, now I want to go back because grief is love with nowhere else to go. So there's not a depletion of love, there's just unresolved love. So yes, your grief is constant because you're looking for somewhere to put it.
Yeah, I think it depends on the relationship that
Mm,
he's talking about.
yes, 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 yes.
And that's why I was saying I need more data there, only because is this somebody who's alive? Is it somebody who's passed? Is it somebody
Mhm,
who is like, is it a rejection piece? Is it like what
mhm.
are we working with? Because what you said,
Okay,
I think
okay.
applies to that across the board, like across what the board, but like it really there's so much more data we need there because the feelings are legit, and it probably sounds like whatever grief you're going through, you are in the active process of it, because
Right.
order
Yes.
to go through grief well, I say this to all my clients, like it should feel like it's never ending, because if you're doing grief right, it feels like you're in this pit that you're not coming out of, and that's how you kind of really know you're doing it right. And I always tell them, like, if you feel like you're super super low and there's no way out and you're stuck here, you're doing it. And there is, so you have to like emotionally recognize that you feel this way and it's valid, and logically know that this means you're doing it right. Like,
Yes.
be dumb enough to keep going, maybe, right? Like we
Well,
talked about
and that's
earlier.
in simpler terms, right? In simpler
Yeah,
terms, and I
like,
do agree. But knowing my brother over here, we've lived a very similar life, right? A very very similar life, and so without giving too much detail, okay. So he just put a little bit more context to it. So I'm gonna read the comment. And it goes basically, if you have no more love to give because the love was taken with the person you lost, and the pain and anger is the only feeling. Okay, I want to go back to something that a reality when it comes down to men as well. You said a couple things, and I want to bring it to the forefront. Okay, pain and anger is the way that we express our emotions. Anger is basically how we cry. As men, because that's all we've ever been taught. We've never been taught to address or be able to articulate what we actually feel. Um, and I know it's hard. It's as men, this is a hard reality to come across, and actually come face to face with. But to be honest with you, um, anger is always our go-to. Anger is always our go-to. Ever since we're kids, this is why we as men, we get into a lot of shit, right? Because no one says that it's okay to cry. No one ever says that it's okay to feel these ways. And so, with the pain that we feel, this is how we articulate it. This is how we articulate it. So when we feel that someone has taken that away, that love away from us, you know, it's easy. When I say this, I'm coming from a place of love, right? And a place of deep understanding, because I've done this before myself. So this is not personal, but it's something to be looked at. It becomes a personal hit to your ego, because you feel as if it was unnecessary for a person to have done that to you, and they left you with questions that are now unanswered. And we want so bad to lash out to that individual and go, why would you do this to me? But the reality of it is, maybe, just maybe, you walk that individual to the next destination, and it's just hard to let them go because of all the time that's been invested. And again, that could change. That may not be your truth, but maybe that's just a basic understanding of it. But if you can take that and pick that apart, it may it may reveal certain things, it may unlock a lot of other things, but in the end, it's a stage in life that you do have to heal. But it
yeah,
takes having people walk with you that understand that, to where you can basically have a better understanding of it, because no one really has an answer for that.
and yeah, just please take mine with a grain of salt. I don't know the situation, but my first question is, why would we give anybody else the power to decide where our story ends?
That's
Why,
another truth.
like,
That's
why
another truth.
why do they get to decide that we have nothing left in us? I I don't know. That doesn't, I don't think that that's up to them. If it's
It's
somebody that's going to
okay.
hurt you, right?
And you're
Like,
absolutely right. It's not up to them, right? Um, but again, this is one of those things that, if you give a person um, that there's a sense of trust. There's a whole lot of vulnerability,
Yes, I'll grieve for all those things. Yeah.
right? You know what I'm saying? So you're grieving all of these different things. There's a sense of change in identity,
Yeah.
right? That's love
Yeah.
and grief in its rawest form. So to I don't think it's really allowing a person to dictate when that love is, you know what I'm saying, can be taken away, or you know what I'm saying, where it goes from that point on. I think it's a totally normal thing to feel something like that. And I say this because there's something important that I just said, and I don't want it to go across your head. You feel it. And that is the key to it. In order to heal from it, you have to feel it.
Yeah.
This is grief in its rawest form. What you're feeling is very valid, and no one can tell you, you know what I'm saying, right or wrong from that. This is yours. This is your truth. And until you're ready to change that, until you're ready to feel something other than pain and anger, you know what I'm saying, then it would change. But you have to go through the process.
Yeah.
You have to go through the process. And then you get to decide what it looks like as you go through it. The other key to it is surrounding yourself with people, not denying yourself, nor telling being around people that's going to constantly agree with you. You need people that's going to disagree with you. Period. You know, I'm that person. I'll disagree with you in a heartbeat if I feel that you need to, if that's what you need to do. You need to be surrounded that if a person truly loves you, they're going to be truthful with you. They're going to tell you when you're acting a fool.
And
They're going
that's
to tell you when you're being wrong. Okay.
that's
I know
love.
that's love. And you know, look, brother, look, man, you already know. And the comment is, I've been grieving for 5 years since she's passed.
Mm,
Yes. Yes.
sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. It don't go anywhere. I'm gonna be honest with you. My son's birthday was on the 18th of December. It's been 9 years since he's been gone. It's been longer than that since my dad and my younger passed. It's been 7 years since my mom passed. I would tell you something. I'm not as strong as what people think I am. I was just really good at pretending I was.
I've never really liked that phrase.
Well, well, think about it, right? Because people expect me to be strong
Yes.
until I'm not,
I
right?
think it's, yeah.
Well, let me add to it. Let me add to it because of the simple fact of in this field of grief that we're in, right? We're the ones that people come to. We're the ones, no matter what we're going through, we're expected to push everything aside to be able to cater to the individual because that's what is required of us. At least in my gift, it's required of me to push that aside to be there for you because I
Yes.
realize that
Yes.
grief is a shared experience.
Yeah. We know how to
And
do that.
sometimes you may need me more than I need myself.
Hmm.
And so over a period of time, um, we sometimes forget, or people sometimes forget that how we got here.
Yeah.
They forget that the pain that we feel doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
It just grows along with us.
Yes. And just to clarify what I'm saying, like I'm not a fan of strength being in like grief because like you survive it. And that doesn't, I don't think that's a testament to somebody's strength. I feel like, I don't know why, but it doesn't sit well with me when they're like, oh my gosh, you're so strong. It's like, that is like not the word you feel. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like
right,
when
right,
somebody says
right.
that, so I always have a weird like reaction with like those two words getting put together. Like that is not the right. It's just, we can't put grief and strength in the same thing. And we
Mm,
can't use that in such a patronizing way of just, oh my gosh, I could never go through what you are going through. You are just so strong. It's like, ew, that is the ickiest feeling. And,
Right.
because
Yeah.
those aren't related words. Those aren't, those should not be put together in my view. That's just totally biased. Like,
Okay.
it's,
Okay.
it
Can
only,
I
it's,
can I add to that for a little bit?
please. Yeah.
Um, and I'm not taking anything away from you. I think I just want to give a different perspective when and maybe I'm just coming from a man's point of view as well. When I talk about strength and grief, because grief can be a very scary thing because it hurts so doggone much, right? And in many ways, we do learn to survive it. In many ways, we learn to use it as a place of remembrance.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a hard place to be to remember because you got to bring in so many other different things that come along with that. And there is a sense of, and again, these are just my thoughts. I'm not taking anything away. Maybe just adding something to what you're saying. And
You are.
um,
No, you are. And I love this perspective. It's helpful because, like, yeah, I
right.
can't always unhear that like phrase. And it's like,
Right. And so, now it's a perspective, right? Perception versus reality, right? And perception is subjective, you know what I'm saying? And so is reality. It depends on the individual. So when I say strength and things like that, there is, and again, this is just my thoughts. You have to be strong enough to go through um, the phase and actually start the healing process. Because so many people don't want to see what's on the other side of it because it changes their world. Although their world has already changed, but there's a sense of survival that comes along with that, right? And it's a safety net that we can build upon that right there instead of saying, if I'm brave enough to allow myself to go through the process of healing in this grief and accepting and come to a place of acceptance, then that's or acknowledgement. I hate the word acceptance, right? But place of acknowledgement of your world, there's a sense of strength that comes in and go, I'm willing to see what's on the other side of this.
I think as you're talking, I think I nailed what it was. Strength is like an adjective. It's
Mhm.
not like a verb. Like bravery and courage imply motion.
Yes,
Like
yes.
resiliency implies motion, right?
Okay,
When you
okay.
say like a character trait like strong or something, it's like there's a stagnation to the word versus because if love and grief are active and alive, then the emotions surrounding them also need to have movement. And I think sometimes if strength
Mm.
doesn't also include like that movement language, I think I get stuck on that sometimes because it's like,
Okay,
oh,
okay.
you've hit your strength. And it's like, wait. Like that's maybe why it feels so weird is because it's like, no, I can't be just like strong. Like it's
Yeah, yeah.
there isn't movement in the word the way I think I like, it's
Right,
maybe
but and again, it all depends on the person who's saying it and the definition that they're using it in, right?
yeah.
So I definitely get that, right? Because and I can relate to what you just said because somebody told me after my son passed away, they saw me a few months later, and here I am walking around and this, that, and another because in my mind I'm macho. This is not going to whoop me and this, that, and another, right? And I remember the first time somebody told me, like, wow, man, you're so strong. I wouldn't know what to do if this happened to me. And I would tell you, the first thought that came to my mind, like, I wonder if I throw punch you, would that change your perception?
Yeah. That's what a
Right?
lot
You
of
know what I'm
people
saying? But
feel
I
like.
thought it. I didn't do it now, Laura. I didn't do it, but I did think it like,
Yeah, most of us do because we don't like getting talked to. No one likes getting talked to like that when they're dealing.
right, like, what if I throw punch you right now? How would you feel? Right? And and things like that. So I definitely that was the thought. And the person that said it, they know who they are, right? They're probably listening right now. But I thought to myself, like, I just lost my child.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that I'm strong because of what you see.
Right.
But now, here's another quote. Here's a scary something for those out there right now, probably looking at yourself in a mirror, and you may not see what someone else sees of you. And the quote goes, the scariest thing in my life is that you may see me the way that I see myself. Ponder on that for a second. Think about that for a minute, right? Because grief is like an octopus. There's many things, there's many tentacles that go out there, and a person's perception of themselves may not be what someone else may see. So you may have gotten so used to wearing a mask out in public and around people, being the one that's the social one, making everybody laugh, and you know what I'm saying, and things like that, because you want to be liked by everybody. And maybe, just maybe, you're trying not to change too much because you're afraid of letting people see that you're hurting deep down inside. It's easy to pretend to be in a world where you feel like everything is together while everything inside of you has fallen apart. That is the part of you that you're afraid to let people see because you feel that they may judge you or they may say that you're weak. They may say all kinds of stuff. There's something wrong with you because you're afraid to let go of that part because of that perception of who you are. So maybe that's just a different way of looking at it. So grief is very diverse. It has many languages, and in a lot of ways, and this is what sparked the book that I'm going to be writing after my next book. I'm in the process of writing my second anthology, which is Men Grieve Too, and the third one coming after that is going to be the foreign love language of grieving men, to help people understand. And again, it's just coming from a man's perspective, and things like that. So when people understand the language that is being spoken, it helps to make it easier to communicate, right? But if you don't know, of course it looks different. Of course it looks different. But man, look, to go back to what you said, it's totally normal to feel the way that you do. It really does. Um, but you get to decide. You get to decide how that looks and who you surround yourself with and what you look like as you begin to grow. But surround yourself with people that understand, that will allow you to be vulnerable and express yourself openly. That's the biggest thing that I can always give someone. And I think that's why we do the work that we do, because we do have a better understanding of that. So, Lord, that's why I say perception versus reality is the context that we use the words in, right? Because words have power,
Yeah.
and it can be easily misunderstood by someone else because we may not have the ability to articulate it in the best way. But it's having an understanding, things like that.
Yeah, that's actually why I made a boundaries like quiz for people so they can better
Yeah,
articulate where they're sitting in relationship to people who aren't choosing them, and just
right.
seeing where their energy levels are actually. And it's interesting you said that, because that's going to be part of my like coursework, as well as I am in the middle of building it, is emotional literacy is one of the going to be a section that just goes into, here's how we can help you better identify what you're feeling to the point that it is has maximum absorption to the receiver.
That's understood. That's definitely understood. And with that being said, we've almost been going 2 hours. We've had a great. This has been an awesome conversation, and I want to say for everybody who's been tuning in, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. I've had a blast. Like I said, I told you we just vibed, we clicked, we had a great time talking, and hopefully I can get her back on here. Crazy part about it is, guys, she's just over in Johnstown. right? She's out in Colorado too. So she don't understand. She's now going to be stalked. Okay, and I'm gonna call her one day, but like, meet me at the coffee shop, right? And I told my friend Aurora this too, or I told her, I said I'm gonna call you out to the coffee shop, and then I'm gonna run up on you, duct tape you real quick, throw you over my shoulder. I'm gonna cause a big old scene, throw you back a car, drive around for like 30 minutes, and then I'm gonna drop you back off just to see how many people call the police. And then I help them look for you, right? I'm like, I don't know what she is.
Well, my twins are one right now, so that's a little hard to do, but I appreciate
I take them with us. I take them with us. Bring the car seats. I'm gonna throw them in the car with us, with you in the back. We're gonna drive around. I'm spoiling them. By the time we drop you off and everything, they're gonna be sugared up. You're like, you did what? I'm like, yes, I just did that. Yes, I did. Right? Yeah. My buddy said, I want a copy of that book if possible. I think that's going to be beautiful. But yeah, Amazon, you can find it up there. But yeah, that's what you see. I know where you at now, so I can find you. Right? You're on social media. How did you think this was going to work?
gosh,
No,
I don't
no.
know.
I know this is gonna be a whole lot of fun. But yes, I want to say thank you for everyone that has been tuning in, and Laura for coming in and sharing her story with us. All of her information is in the YouTube channel. Go over there and check her out. You send me her social media links and everything else is in there as well. And guys, please check out her book. Please, you know what I'm saying? Go show that support. If you love this conversation, you got something out of it, go check it out. And while you're there, hit that subscribe button for me, right? Help us get that out there. Help share it around. And let people know that we're normalizing conversations around death, God, and grief. Rachel, again, really enjoyed your energy, and I know, right? The dimples, and what? I am not committing felonies. I did say I'm just going to duct tape her and take the kids. We riding around. I am going to drop her off, right? And just so maybe it's a partial felony. I mean, I will help people look for her, right? It's not like I'm going to keep her, all right? So whatever. Whatever. She agreed to it. Maybe not verbally, but I saw the expression. She agreed to it. She's laughing. Okay.
That was good. That was good.
So, Laura, before I let you go, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, I am on Facebook and Instagram. I'm more active there because I have a Facebook group like you do, Tony. Just helping people with getting better boundary relationships. I got quizzes in there, and I got videos that I post in there about this. And I'm currently in the middle of offering like one-on-one help until my course is up, because after that I'm going into groups for anyone who's taken the course. And so if you need like help past this, I do just have this short time to be able to offer like one-on-one until it's up and running. So I'm not gonna be able to do that forever, but I want anyone who wants the extra help or needs that needed holding handing that is important, that you can find me and we can connect, and you don't have to do this alone. So yeah.
I definitely appreciate that. And then just one more thing. If you can leave the audience with something, what would you leave them with?
You are more worth it than you could possibly understand. And today you might not feel it, but you don't know your future, and you can't even guess or predict it. You can't even imagine how much you mean to the people in your future. Don't make decisions for other people too soon, because your healing is hard today.
I love that. I love that. And as always, you guys give a big, huge thank you to my guests. You guys are going to see a lot more of her. Go follow her on her social medias. Go to Amazon, grab a book. And if you contact her, let her know that you saw her on the podcast and everything. And that way, we can definitely get you guys the help and the support that you need. Got people to walk with you. All right. And with that being said, this is going to conclude this episode of Brief Let's Talk About the podcast. As always, I want to say thank you guys for your support. Thank you guys for always tuning in. Thank you guys for being interactive, asking questions. This helps us, right? This helps us have a great time with you, but also give you guys information that probably you didn't know nothing about, or maybe you was thinking about it, right? So with that being said, guys, go out and enjoy the rest of your day. We love you. Thank you for your support, and we're going to see you guys in the next episode. All right, and yeah, peace.
Bye.